Ladies and gentlemen, now it's Too Late with Alan Mosley.
Yeah.
Yes. They're fired up.
Yeah. Are they though? This should be.
I'm sure.
This is gonna be a great show, guys.
It is.
Welcome back to another episode of It's Too Late. I am your host Alan Mosley, joined as always by the #1 producer in late night, it's Dave Wilimowski.
Whoa.
Dave, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I worked 12 hours again today, so I was reserving my energy all day. I did as little as possible, so I'd be all revved up and ready to go tonight. I'm ready to have some fun.
Yeah. Did that work?
No.
Oh.
No, I feel like garbage.
All right. Well, let me just kind of reset here. Then that's not the answer.
I
go
can
good.
No, we can do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you can you? Mary?
Mhm.
Just all right. Anyway, you know what? I'm actually having a great week. The temperature's warming up. You know, summer is fast approaching. I know that's bad news to you because you're, an Eskimo. But for the rest of us, it's feeling good outside. Like I'm getting out more. Like I'm, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you have stuff to do and you're like, oh, like when I get off work or whatever, I'm not going to go out. I'm just going to go home. I'm making myself go out more. Just kind of getting reacclimated to the earth and the people.
Ugh.
I mean, yeah, I know. Who am I fucking kidding, right? So anyway, did you hear the news about everyone's favorite operating system inventor, Bill Gates, got the coronavirus?
I didn't even hear about that.
Do we have a picture of Bill Gates?
Oh yeah, I always have one ready. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's you're gonna have to do a lot of presses to get rid of those. That's all I'm saying.
So he's working
Yeah.
chest.
Okay, that's actually a fake. He does have man boobs, but his man boobs are not that big. That's a fake picture. We don't spread fake news on this show. Do we have a real picture of Bill Gates? Yeah.
Our stock photo.
Which one would you rather be real if you were him? Like giant man boobs or sexual predator? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'm morally, I'm gonna have to say giant man boobs.
Morally, yes, but
Yeah.
let's be real with ourselves here. The follow-up question is, how hot was she?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So,
That matters.
yeah. I mean, it matters to the sexual predator. It's all.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
But really, I decided I wanted to do something a little bit different for tonight's monologue because I thought instead of we could come up with 3 or 4 more funny pictures of people and say, hey, do we have a picture of it? And then it'll be a monkey and I'll say, Dave, you're racist. But what I thought we would do this week is I had a kind of interesting discussion topic come up. And what it kind of revolved around was starting off with that gentleman right there, Bill Gates. But you could plug in any random, just evil SOB. You could think of someone in the government.
Oh, yeah.
You could think of Kamala, aforementioned. You could think of, we're going to be talking about Adam Kinzinger later this evening, the neocon POS from Illinois. But pick any of those people, and let me ask you this question. And this is a serious question. I'd like to get some interaction with Chad on this too. Is it right, in however you choose to define the term right, is it right to wish ill on other people, even evil people, even people that you hate or disagree with or want harm on others? Is it morally right to wish ill on them? I feel like that's a lot tougher question when the rubber meets the road, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that from a distance it's easy for them to say, I don't like these people, they should go away.
Yeah. But
whenever you run into someone like that, you should always counter with, okay, well, here's the rifle. Go do it. Go. You do it. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword, as Ned Stark would say.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, the whole principle of that being that if you can't do it, then maybe that person doesn't deserve it. And so with that kind of thought in mind, I'll restate again. Is it right to wish ill upon others?
Oh,
I know.
I I never know if I'm supposed to answer.
Well, I mean, you're
Yeah.
the only one like here, like in the studio, you know.
Well. For me, it's like I never really thought about it that much. Like I know it when I come across it because it's happened a lot in the past few years because you got the president trying to do these laws from the desk where he says like if I don't do this then I shouldn't eat anymore or feed my children. And I had feelings like that and but I didn't think like if it's right or wrong. It just felt like it felt wrong. Like because it crossed my mind. I'm like and that's kind of where I'd go. I'd just be like I'd like if he just went away. Like just went away. Like I'm not really wishing ill, but it'd be nice if some people just went away. They could go somewhere else. They don't have to get hurt or anything.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of
Well,
where I go with it.
I get what you're saying, but I think I think some people would say that that's a cop out because it's if you want them to go away, what does that mean? Because you have to define all the terms, right?
Well, they could
Like if you
just go to Florida, retire. You know,
okay, and
just
and when
hang
they
out on the
say no,
beach.
I'm going to stay right here and keep doing what I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Because you have to define what everything means in a really tough philosophical question.
yeah,
Because I know some people would say, I'm actually already seeing in chat people saying, well, if they're truly evil, then well, of course. I was like, okay, what's truly evil? What's
yeah.
mildly evil? What's not quite evil at all? What's truly evil? And then when the people who think that that wasn't evil, and when you thought it was truly evil, decide to come for you because they think you're truly evil, now what? So now you're kind of digging into the Pandora's box of revenge, right? Like where does that go? Where does that end? Because no matter how no matter how evil a person is, objectively or subjectively, they're going to have people on their team, right? And
Yeah, well,
they're
yeah.
going to think that if you decided that evil person should, the day you gave them the Dave Willemowski treatment, which is they had to go away,
Just go
then
away. Yeah.
then they're going to come for you because you're truly evil because you did away, like
With their
so
buddy.
so when you think of all the ramifications, that's a hard question. And
Well,
and of course,
it's one thing to just wish ill, but to actually act upon it and dealing with the repercussions, that's a whole different thing.
because I know because people that know me know that I'm not really a religious person, but I know that a more religious person would perhaps reply with, this life is not the end, you know?
Mm.
And so we don't take such matters into our hands, right? Because that's not for us to decide, and B, this isn't the end. They're going to get theirs and we're going to get
Oh yeah.
ours, and that's going to happen in another world. And so that's why we don't resort to such things. But then again, of course, as I said, I'm not really a very religious or spiritual person, and I have no problem. Of course, remember I took the test. I'm chaotic evil. So they're coming for me, Dave. They're coming for me, and
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, look, there's some people in this world that need to get got. But I know that there's very kind and virtuous and wonderful people that I have an enormous amount of respect for that would be horrified by what I just said. That's not how they feel at all.
Yeah.
So it's a tough question.
It is. And I'm like I'm Christian. I have faith and stuff like that, but I don't even look at it from that because I don't know enough about the rules that I'm supposed to know, the book that I'm supposed to read. It just feels wrong to wish ill. It's like you can put it to any kind of spiritual belief. It's bad karma.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'll pray for them. Hopefully they'll change their heart and they'll become a better person.
Yeah.
Guess.
I see our friend Ryan in chat says violence is always the answer. See, Ryan's the guy that's going to get got.
Yeah,
See, he's going
to the llama farm. I like that.
Yeah. That's something for everybody to ponder, and I think we'll revisit that sometime in the future. It was just something that came up. I was actually believe it or not, I was actually putting together show notes for the live show on June 4th.
Oh.
here in beautiful Middle Tennessee. It's the 4th annual It's Too Late live show hosted by yours truly, as well as David, Mary, Libertarian, at the Right Bon Aqua Computer Club. That's in Bon Aqua, Tennessee, June 4th. But you have to get your tickets. You have to get them. Tickets. It's like 3 weeks away, guys. We gotta sell like 20 to 30 more tickets in order for it to basically be a sellout. Yeah. We'll break even, yeah. So you got to get your tickets. But one of the questions, because I have a guest for that evening, and we're gonna delve into some deep stuff. I think everyone's gonna have their banana pudding and listen. Yeah. You know, yeah. Because that's how everyone's just fat as shit, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Anyway, I feel like we should move on to the next segment. What do you think?
Are you ready? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we covered all that? Got it?
Well, I definitely don't think we got it, but we'll come back. We'll try again when we'll
put a pin in it.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna be back with the meme of the week and the viewer mail right after this commercial break. Don't go away.
Oh,
yeah. I meant to open this up before the commercial was over, but I'm slow.
Yeah, here we are.
All right.
I can't wait.
Better
not be a rerun again.
I feel like it's more creepy than anything. It says, "A long-lost relative will soon come along to your benefit." See? It says right there. A long-lost relative will soon come along to your benefit.
Oh.
Like, I've been playing a lot of 7 Days to Die, so I don't know how I feel about that.
How long and lost they are, yeah.
Yeah, like, the relatives that I give a shit to see, I either do see or they're dead.
Yeah.
So that means no thank you to that.
It's gonna be a Christmas past thing.
Yeah. I would make a great Scrooge, I think.
You would.
You think so? Like, for real?
No, I do.
Okay.
Because, he ends up at the end, he does have a heart of gold, even though he's dirty capitalist.
Yeah. It is a bunch of socialistic nonsense, but, whatever. It's a classic tale. All right. I thought I would make it. Okay, whatever. Let me tell you a little bit about tonight's sponsor. That's Pat Crest Botanicals, where you can get all of your CBD, Delta 8, gummies, topical creams, teas, just a ton of different products. But you get your CBD products at patcrestbotanicals.com. Promo code It's Too Late for, listen to this, guys, 30% off.
Be kidding me.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. And so with inflation, it's only plus 400%.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'd be way worse. It'd be way worse. I actually have some here on my desk. This is the Ascend 3000. Can we get a shot of that?
3000. Yeah. It looks, yeah.
I was trying to be more ascendy this week. Remember last week didn't work out. But
that was intense.
Yeah. Last week wasn't intense. Last week was like, let's just get this kind of thing over. All right. But anyway, it's patcrestbotanicals.com. Promo code It's Too Late. I think we'll save for later for our next sponsor, which is Tennessee Hot Sauce Company. But I told you guys, Tennessee Hot Sauce Company is coming to the 4th annual It's Too Late live show, June 4th. They're going to have a special limited edition hot sauce only available at the event. And we know what the flavor is going to be.
Yeah, we do.
Dave's gonna. I mean, you're gonna, right?
I'm pretty excited about it.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
excited for you, actually. I really am. That's gonna. If you want to see Dave live and in person, drink hot sauce and have a Less than
reaction.
ideal performance. You got to come June 4th to the show. It's going to be great.
Gonna be mixing a lot of weird stuff that night.
Oh, should we tell people about the other thing you're taste testing? The drink.
Yeah, why not? I might have mentioned it.
So there's only so you've already ruined the surprise. Yeah, great.
No, there's 3 people.
So there was a few states in the country that were rolling out the taste testing for Mountain Dew Hard Mountain Dew. Yeah. It's a Mountain Dew liquor in a few different flavors, and Tennessee has some. I'm gonna buy some Hard Mountain Dew for Dave. Yeah. And I don't know what banana pudding and hot sauce and Mountain Dew liquor is gonna do to you.
Yeah,
but let's just see what happens.
At least I'm gonna get sweaty. That's
yeah, and it's gonna be 95 degrees and 100% humidity, and you're gonna be wearing a suit.
Yeah, gray and sweaty.
Yeah, it'll be kind of brown and runny down the back about halfway through the show, but
yeah, be there.
He's a trooper. He's not gonna.
No.
All right.
Wouldn't be the first.
Yikes. Hey, Dave.
Yes, Alan.
What time is it?
It's time for Meme of the Week. Wait, what the hell?
Wow, it's kind of hot. Except for...
It's disturbing. I mean, I can work with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, to each their own, Yeah. But we do have a bonus meme. Check out the bonus meme.
Oh, we do? I didn't even...
Woman on death row. What do you want for your last meal? I don't know. What do you want?
Yeah. And then you know what? I say Taco Bell, and then suddenly they know what they want, and it's not that.
Yeah. That... it'll be my luck that this episode is the episode that Anna Kay decides to tune in, and now I'm not going to get to have any, for a few days.
Yeah.
I'm getting the cold shoulder now. But, okay, real quick, though, we're being gentlemen by saying, I defer to your wants.
Yeah.
Right?
Our needs are simple.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I mean, do I have meal preferences? Of course I do. But I want you to have what you want.
That's more important.
And now I'm the bad guy.
Seriously.
I guess we're just fucking eating Chick-fil-A every day. Is what you would say. Is what you would say if that were you. That's not me. I'm saying that's what would happen. Okay. All right. Let's we were doing good for a minute. Now it's off the rails.
That's good.
It's still good? Okay. Let's answer some viewer mail.
Whoa.
It's kind of neat.
That startled me.
Oh. Well, I didn't mean to do that. We're actually still getting submissions for viewer mail right now. Could you guys do this like before right this second? Andrew Avery writes, yeah, we're going to end up missing a couple. I'm sorry because we're busy.
Yeah.
Because the show's live. It's 8:19 Central Time right now. It's live. Could you imagine if it was recorded and we just like synced that up?
Nailed it.
That's how well-oiled a machine this shit is. All right. Andrew Avery writes, Dear Alan and Dave, are you keeping abreast of the infant formula shortage?
Yeah, I didn't even notice.
Well, like, why aren't these women feeding their children with their,
Yeah.
Like, why is there so many people buying formula? Like, isn't formula like not as good as breast milk?
Well, breastfeeding isn't as simple as you think it is either. It can be very complicated.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried. I mean, it gets weird.
Well, and then you tried to ask Mary, well, what do you want? And all right. Now people are just spamming breasts in chat now. Do you see that? Andrew, this is your fault. Yep. You got everybody all hot and bothered.
Trying to run a classy show.
You lying son of a bitch. All right. Eric Eli writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what are your favorite 70s or 80s TV shows?
Oh.
Do you have a favorite classic show?
I have a terrible memory, so I actually did have to go back and Google. And once I started scrolling through the '80s shows, man, there were a lot of memories there. Like the Growing Pains but Perfect Strangers. I loved that show when I was a kid. That was good. And Alf's in there.
This show lasted. This show lasted for 11 years, so technically it ended in the early 90s, but it started in 82.
Okay.
I love the show Cheers.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes
Definitely.
you wanna go where
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
Oh,
why are
about
we
the
dropping frames right now? Like what's going on with our situation? Do you see that? It was probably
Your
all the
green.
breast talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was the breast talk 1000%.
I should be keeping an eye on that.
I'm still gonna lower the thing that I can do, and
Yeah, there's
see if that helps. But if it wasn't for all the breast talk, we wouldn't have been in this trouble. Lyle Durio writes, "Dear Alan and Dave,
Hey.
hey Lyle, hey Lyle,
Hey, Lyle.
all right. What are some good media alternatives to the Lying Liars?"
Oh. You're here.
Yeah, and obviously he knows because he's asking the question.
Yeah. To the thing.
Yeah,
He's asking the answer. What the answer is.
to the thing. You're such a fucking technical producer, Dave.
Yeah,
He's
like
Lyle did something to the thing.
Yeah, I like to keep it cerebral. Yeah.
All right. Ryan Seifert writes, "Dear Alan and Dave, are onion rings donuts?"
Oh.
Right. So they're not donuts because it's literally says dough in the name donuts, and breading, like for frying something, is not dough.
Yeah, he almost had me.
Yeah. I know. See, it gave you pause because you're like, well, it's like it's round and but
It's fried.
don't listen to Ryan's bullshit, all right? Because in Ryan's world, everything that's breaded is a donut. Chicken
That's
fingers are a
slippery
donut.
slope. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Fried
then you're gonna wind
pickles.
up with dozers and dough mams and just all right.
It's dope.
It's donut. So, what happened? All right. Like we had this really deep
Chicken
philosophical conversation in the first 10 minutes, and now look what happened. All right. Brian Johnson writes, "Dear Alan and Dave, would you rather wear the same socks for a month or the same underwear for a week?"
Oh. Well, the same underwear for the week. That ain't that bad.
So I think the same underwear for the week is not as because I mean your socks are gonna get just smelly and gross like after a few days, much less a few weeks. Whereas your underwear, think about this, ladies, this is for you. Don't be afraid, because like that's the area that we're maintaining the most.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. It gets the most attention in the shower.
Like your shirt's gonna be bad after a week because you're working and you're sweating in your underarms, but we're keeping things in check.
Yeah.
Down
You gotta
there.
Keep up with your maintenance wipes. Yeah, you'd be fine.
Yeah. So I think the underwear's maintenance wipes. Jesus. I feel like we'll talk after the show, Dave.
Is that right?
All right.
I thought everybody did that.
All right. Keith McQuarrie writes, "Dear Alan and Dave, what would be the creepiest thing you could say while passing a stranger on the street?" Didn't we already answer that?
Yeah, because the same answer came up, and now I'm in a position where I'm trying to think of another one.
I feel like the answer is, especially if they have young children, is your daughter's cute.
Yeah.
Just go straight to the hot button,
What is she, 7? See, I made it bad. Now I remember. Yeah, because why is okay? Because you said that, and then it's the crowd that assumes that you're being creepy, whereas the daughter's like 26,
Mm-hmm.
and then I made it weird.
Alternate answer: do you have any maintenance wipes?
Do you have any wipes on you?
Also, like if you're kind of scratching because it gets itchy. Yeah. Jonathan Carranza writes, "What is the perfect lunch?" A French dip.
Wow.
Get the French dip with sandwich with the cup of au jus.
Oh, jus.
Oof. There you go.
Oh, juice. Wow, you're fancy, man. You fancy. No, yeah.
Wait, your answer is going to be crackers and cheese? What the hell?
No, I was kind of going the same way, but it's a sub with chips and a pop, and then you can put some chips on your sub, maybe some Fritos.
Wait, just let me just stop you right there.
Oh,
chips and a what?
A sub. Really? See, because really? No, because here, I mean, you can pretty much call it any of it. We're like in a regional area where we're on the edge of everything. You can call it hoagie, grinder, whatever. Grinder's kind of weird, but it's a sub.
I'm just so glad you didn't say Taco Bell because we're running out of time now for the interview.
Said that earlier.
And yeah, but I can't rebuke you for several different things at once. It's Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Jeez. I need to get a mute button over here for Dave Cam. Dave, remind me to install a mute button for you on my Stream Deck.
Okay.
It's Taco Bell. There's a Taco Bell across the street from Poncho's, and if I see y'all's truck going over there, I swear to God.
Want a pre-game over there?
Celeste Ennis writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what is your favorite kind of flower? That's nice.
That is.
Do you have a favorite flower?
Oh. I feel like my button's going bad, but no.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that programming note mid show. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to move that one. Yeah, no flower. No, I don't have a favorite flower. It's weird.
What are you doing?
Oh, now it works twice. That's fantastic.
All right, one more strike, and
right.
You know what's happening. All right. I'm trying to like.
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking about it today. One of these days, I'm gonna get good at this job, and then what are we gonna have to talk about? Like, I'm gonna nail everything. I'm gonna be a better talker.
Probably that all soft drinks are called Coke, and how the fast food Mexican restaurant is Taco Bell.
You guys really do that? Everything's Coke?
Well, just, Cokes.
Do they say what kind of Coke you want?
No. Like, if you're at a restaurant and they say, what do you want to drink? And they have Coca-Cola on the menu and you say Coke, they're going to bring you a Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay.
But if you're wondering where the soft drinks are, you'd be like, oh, there's the Coke aisle. There's the Cokes.
Wow, that's wild.
It's wild.
It is. It's
like,
mind-blowing to me.
It's like an exotic island, the South. Yeah, all right.
Like, because in my imagination, I just see like an aisle with like every Coke you could think of. There's diet, sugar-free, cherry, maybe other Cokes I don't even know about, like a peach Coke or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's Coke and vanilla Coke and cherry Coke, but all of those can be found in the Coke aisle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's deceivingly accurate.
All right. Darren Neal writes, Dear Alan and Dave, which is the better pain relief, Kratom or weed? Well, we wouldn't do anything like that on this program.
No.
But if you're looking for something to help you out, you can go to our tonight's sponsors, which is Pat Chris Botanical. All right. Hope this helps.
I scare
Thomas
myself
Lightheart,
when I go after a button that quick. It's
you scare.
What's gonna?
You know what? Actually, I get a little nervous when I see in my monitor you going.
My arm jab.
I'm like, here we fucking go. The stream's over, guys. All right.
He's going to commercial.
Here comes the tornado. Thomas Lightheart writes, instead of formula, couldn't the government provide each household with a milk goat? That's the thing. Like, you can't open. That's another Pandora's box right there. Because when you think of all the money that government wastes, you could say, instead of wasting money on this ridiculous boondoggle, look what they could have done. And I know that the technically correct answer is we would rather them have not spent the money at all and not taxed you and whatever. But in a world where they've already taxed you and they're already going to print trillions of dollars and they're already going to go give it to Zelensky in Ukraine. If instead of doing that, you could have gotten a goat, then obviously I think you'd take the goat, right?
That's right, Mary. I want my pony. Sorry. Are they free goats?
What's free,
Yeah.
All right. Carl Huber writes, Dear Alan and Dave, if an ambulance is on its way to save someone and it runs someone over, does it stop to help them?
I had not really a girlfriend, a girl I was seeing, but that happened. And yeah, I'm pretty sure they stopped and helped her. She was like walking by the bay where they're coming out and they come rolling out and hit her. I think they stopped and helped her.
I think that if in the case where there's like a serious injury, like an ambulance hit a person, then they probably would stop to help them. But if it was like a minor fender bender and they know that their call is this guy's dying, they would probably keep going and say, you need to just figure this out yourself. And they we'll keep going.
Deal with that later.
If they did stop for a minor like fender bender, then that guy dies, and now the ambulance has to get got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it's like any kind of bureaucracy, I know, then they have to continue on the job that they were assigned, and then they have to talk to their supervisor, or the person themselves has to call the emergency services to have another ambulance directed towards them. It seems like the right protocol.
Yeah. Aaron Kentner writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what is the most used app on your phone? It's Duolingo for you, right?
No, not enough. That owl is pissed. Always angry.
I mean, does texting count as an app?
You really text that much?
I actually I keep my world set. Here's a Seinfeld reference. I keep my world separate. So Messenger is for like you retarded people, and Signal is for like some of my close friends that I work with that we have projects with and stuff, and we have some Signal chats. And now Dave's like, oh, it's funny, I'm not Signal. But I have Messenger for you guys. Just give me a break. Yeah. All right. And then text messaging is for Anna K.
Oh.
So you don't cross the streams, you see.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought you were going to say about Signal chat, that's for a whole different group of autists,
I mean, it is for a different group of autists. That's technically I was trying to be nice, all right? Jesus. Josh Wright writes, Dear Alan and Dave, in the event of a zombie apocalypse, of the two of you, who is likely to survive and who would be food?
Is he trying to start a fight?
You got to tune in Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern time for the answer.
I'm at the bottom of the earth.
This guy, fucking journey to the center of the earth over here with this guy. So he'll die, but he won't be eaten because no one will find his body.
They can't get to me. But I'll have some nice furniture, some plants.
They're gonna get to you next week. I have a feeling they're gonna get to you next week. And where are you gonna go? Because you're just in a fucking hole.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Chris Malliard writes, Dear Alan and Dave, we were doing so good on time. Remember? Like 10 minutes ago, we were crushing it. All right. Why does a Roadrunner look more like a miniature ostrich than the cartoon Roadrunner?
Huh.
That is true.
It is. I like how the question's kind of phrased as in like the cartoon Roadrunner is the proper Roadrunner and the real one was a mistake.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a mistake. That's for sure. And finally this evening, Mary Lynn Wilimowski writes, Dear Alan and Dave,
what do I do
can
now?
you swim? If so, were you given lessons or did you just figure it out on your own?
That's a good question.
I think she's trying to rule out all the ways she can Can you swim, Dave?
Yeah, I can swim pretty good. And yeah, I just figured it out myself. I was kind of a county kid, so I probably, well, we had a pool in our yard. It was like above ground, but it was deep enough that you could swim in it. And then a lot of my training was done in creeks and ponds. But yeah, I figured it out myself.
So this is actually one I never understood. I'm not trying to be a dick, by the way. This is one I've never understood because I can swim and I just figured it out. And I never understood people who couldn't. I'm like, swim.
Yeah. Start flailing and you'll figure out which way.
Like if you're in water that is deeper than the length of your legs, then swim. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, like I know that there's people like, well, fuck you then. But I'm like,
Yeah.
swim, just do it. Just do it. Like
Well,
it's one thing.
I saw one clip in like this old like Western or something, whatever. It's an uh, they'll know in the chat, but the guy just takes the kid and throws him in the river. Like, figure it out. And he figures it
Yeah.
out. Gets to the shore and he's fine.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not that hard. Like I don't recall anyone ever even like addressing it with me.
Yeah.
Like my oldest memory is just get in the pool and swim around. Like it's just like
I knew Carl would figure it out. Yeah.
like what are you gonna do? Are like is the alternative just go to the bottom and drown? Is that what you would do? Like, all right. Well, now that we've efficiently alienated everybody, we better move on, I think, to the interview portion of the show. We're going to be back with tonight's guest, Patrick MacFarlane from the Libertarian Institute, right after this quick break. Don't go away. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Email us at info@alanmosley.tv. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Our guest this evening is a practicing attorney in Wisconsin, but we won't hold that against him, as well as the Justin Raimondo Fellow at the Libertarian Institute. Congratulations on that, by the way. That's pretty recent, so I love that. I love Justin, so good for you. As well as the host of Liberty Weekly, which you can find at libertyweekly.net. Tons of content there, way more. Can you do my website for me? Can you just... Anyway... Guys, Patrick MacFarlane. Patrick, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Alan. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all. So I know you've had a little bit of excitement recently because you guys at the Libertarian Institute, you, Will, Kyle, Scott, everybody have been churning out just a ridiculous amount of content always, but especially recently in especially foreign policy news. And you've had a few of your articles picked up by Zero Hedge, going out to hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Bravo, well done. But what was your reaction to all that?
I don't know. It's just kind of unreal, actually. It's still really cool. I think that's the only way I can describe it. It's just really cool.
Well, it's funny. I'll tell you this anecdote really quick. I wrote an article about the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it got picked up by Zero Hedge, and I would have never known. Like I don't follow the news probably as closely as some of you hardcore writers do over at the Libertarian Institute. I would have never known it happened until one of our mutual friends, Mike Meharry, called me and said, "Hey, I saw your article," and I was like, "Oh, cool." So that's all I knew about it. But one of the articles in particular that I want to highlight, and by the way, I love the title, Adam Kinzinger executes neocon vision for Ukraine. This was published back on May 5th of this year. I want you to kind of set the stage for us a little bit. Adam Kinzinger, typical neocon war hawk, talking a lot of smack about the war in Ukraine and Russia. Of course, no neocon ever saw a war they didn't like. But this isn't exactly the first rodeo for him, and particularly with Ukraine. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I thought it was really interesting because Kyle put out a piece talking, well, and Dave DeCamp did too, of antiwar.com, put out a piece talking about Adam Kinzinger and his introduction of a new AUMF in the House. And AUMF stands for Authorized Use of Military Force, and essentially would give Biden the clearance to start, like, to put boots on the ground in Ukraine in the event that Russia was to use chemical or, basically WMDs in Ukraine. And it was incredibly alarming because, well, it should be obvious why it's incredibly alarming. So I kind of wanted to dig into it a little bit, get into Adam Kinzinger's past, And of course, the first thing I kind of did was, there are a few neoconservative think tanks that have been intimately tied to the situation in Ukraine. One of the biggest ones is the Foreign Policy Initiative. And now it's kind of defunct, but the connections that are there, going back to at least the 2014 Euromaidan coup that occurred in Ukraine, where the government there was overthrown and it had U.S. footprints all over it. But there was Victoria Nuland, who was, I believe, the Assistant Secretary of State at the time, who was involved to some level in the revolution protests. And her husband is Robert Kagan, who is a famous neoconservative, but he also heads the Foreign Policy Initiative. And I thought it was really interesting to get into because, lo and behold, Adam Kinzinger has spoken at the Foreign Policy Initiative. And so that kind of led me down the rabbit trail of looking into Adam Kinzinger's past and seeing some of the legislative developments that he has been involved with. And it really basically became apparent to me that he is one of the architects of our current, the current Ukrainian situation.
Well, something I know that we talked about on the show very recently is kind of the classic stupid versus evil debate of, are these people making these kind of boneheaded decisions? Are they just, well-intentioned but misinformed folk? Or are they evil? They have an agenda that is not for the best interest of mankind. And Kinzinger has kind of, for me, two strikes against his name. One, of course, he's a Republican representative. And yet, whether it was the Obama administration or now under the Biden administration, and here, here they are saying that Republicans and Democrats just can't get along. It seems like when it comes to war, they never lack for opportunities to find bipartisan support. Am I right in noticing that?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And this stupid versus evil thing actually came up when the great Scott Horton debated the other head of the Foreign Policy Initiative, which is Bill Kristol. And Scott Horton debated him. And I think at the end, when Bill Kristol kind of put up the white flag, he didn't even really have like a closing statement or a closing argument. I think he didn't even get out of his chair. But I think one of the things that he said in his defense was, hey, I think my opponent is really kind of portraying this as if we're making these decisions with bad intentions. And I think the funny, obvious nature of it was like, well, if you're thinking that Scott is accusing you of having bad intentions, maybe that's just a product of how bad your actions are and how unjustifiable they are. And I don't know if that's really a problem that Scott had.
Well, there's a couple other things in particular about Kinzinger that I want to talk to you about. One being that he was one of those voices. It seems like ancient history at this point, the way the news cycle moves. But he was one of the voices that was saying, well, let's have a no-fly zone. We won't actually involve ourselves in the war because they're trying to sell this idea that if you don't have troops on the ground, then therefore you're not really at war. We'll just have a no-fly zone. And that's kind of what I was thinking with the stupid versus evil thing is I tend to think that people like him don't get to the positions that they are and on the committees that he's on by being stupid. I think that he knows full well what it means to enforce a no-fly zone. Would you agree with that?
I would have to think so. I mean, but again, it's laughable because if you go to his actual page, his official page where the press releases are, one of the things that his staff, and I'm sure it was his staff that wrote it, one of the things they said is, oh, well, he's a very brave pilot who piloted some kind of intelligence plane during Iraq and Afghanistan. So he knows what is needed just by the very fact of him having piloted a plane during these two conflicts. He knows when a no-fly zone is appropriate. And I'm not really sure if there ever was a no-fly zone that he ever participated in. But just because of the fact that he knows how to fly an airplane, I think that apparently makes him qualified to make these incredibly daft and stupid and reckless foreign policy decisions.
Well, one parting shot on him while we're just totally running him into the ground is you had mentioned in the article that He was one of the voices after the withdrawal from Afghanistan. As bungled of a withdrawal as one may believe it was, I feel like if there's one tiny little speck of silver lining on an otherwise turd sandwich for the Biden administration, it has to be at least troops are out of Afghanistan. But Adam Kinzinger, was one of the people saying, oh, well, this is just going, as soon as the troops walk out, that means there's just going to be rising tensions. There's going to be war-torn areas spreading around the Middle East. There's going to be an enormous increased risk of terrorism, which is, of course, that's going to forever, the war on terror is going to forever going to be used as the boogeyman for intervention. And yet, here we are all these months later, and all of that harbinger of doom that he spoke about, none of that happened.
Yeah, this is really the safe harbor myth that Scott talks a lot about in Fool's Errand, and I think in Enough Already as well. But the safe harbor myth, thinking that there's, basically a magical portal to, what is it, JFK Airport in New York City from the caves in Afghanistan, the mountains.
Yes.
Which really doesn't, of course that doesn't exist. And the terror attacks and a great deal of the terror attacks have been planned in areas other than Afghanistan. So I think there was the Munich cell that's infamous for the 9/11 attacks. And in fact, some of those attacks were planned in the United States too. So it's just, granted, we are only 9 or 10 months out from the withdrawal from Afghanistan. So there's a bunch of time, but I think it's a safe bet to say that if there is an attack on domestic soil, my money is on that it will be planned somewhere other than Afghanistan.
Well, let me ask you a little bit of a meta question. Do a little prognosticating for us. So for people that have ever seen this show before, I hope that people actually get the logo when they see it. But the show's called It's Too Late, and if you notice, I have that little visage of the atomic clock on the moon right there. And people perhaps in our generation, Patrick, we're a little bit young for the days of tuning into the news to see what where the atomic clock is and when fallout's going to begin. However, we're living in interesting times. And while I think that most of the innocent peoples of the world don't want to see escalations with Russia, with anyone for that matter, definitely not between nuclear powers. I feel like if you had said to me 5 years ago, oh, we're on the brink of nuclear war, I'd have said, well, that's ridiculous. Of course we're not. But if you were to say that to me today, I think it would give me a little bit more pause. Do you honestly believe in your heart of hearts that we are truly living in dangerous times, however you would define it?
Yeah, certainly I do. Although it's really hard to kind of, it's not tangible, in a way that it feels like it was, or that it must have been for our parents' generation and their parents as well. But the doomsday clock, I believe, is set to 90 seconds to midnight right now, and that's the closest that it's ever been. I think the second closest it's been has been in the 1950s.
Wow.
So it's really kind of scary, and the thing that's the most scary is that people don't really seem to care or realize. And I just keep thinking about the situation in my head. We were talking about the stupid versus evil debate, but wouldn't it be just ridiculously funny if the entire world ended, like human society, even humanity itself, ended because Joe Biden's policy or some, the people that are in charge right now? It's just incredible. It's an incredible clown world that we're living in, and it's hard to believe that it's not a parody.
Well, moving on, we'll leave Ukraine for now, like hopefully everyone does. And you had another article here titled "Former NATO Commander Disguises War Propaganda as Novel." And the novel, you got a picture of it here on your website. It's a big novel called 2034 that I believe was actually written by a couple of commanders or a couple of spooks. Tell us a little bit about what 2034 is, and is it just an innocent, fun little Fallout fiction, or is it a little bit more sinister than that?
Well, I think what it does is that it provides us a window into what the psychology is of NATO, I guess, because now I believe it was someone in Great Britain was saying that they want a global NATO force, not just as it applies to Europe itself. So, but it's a book written by Admiral James Stavridis, who was the former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, and it's written about 2034, a future war with Russia, or excuse me, with China. Russia's also involved in the book, but what it does is it provides an interesting kind of window into what their psychology is, and respectively, all of the foreign policy spooks behind them as well. So essentially, what happens in the novel is that there is a surprise attack that happens on a U.S. Freedom of Navigation patrol in the South China Sea, where the Chinese put out like a dummy ship as bait to lure in U.S. forces. Then after that initial attack, there is a full-scale naval battle between Chinese forces and U.S. forces, where the United States is soundly defeated because of a Chinese cyber attack capability that disables all of the navigation and warfare fighting capabilities of U.S. forces. The Iranians capture a U.S. pilot. The Russians invade Poland because of this, and the Russians also cut the underwater internet cables that lead to the United States. And so these are all things that, if you're familiar with the situation in China and like the foreign policy blob thinking about what they're terrified that the Chinese and the Russians will do, these are all things that you would have heard about already. Now, the thing that's most alarming is what happens after that, because in the novel, I believe the United States resorts to a nuclear strike. And I think, because it's been a while since I've read it, but I believe the U.S. resorts to a tactical nuclear missile strike, and in retaliation, the Chinese, they destroy Galveston, Texas, and they destroy with nuclear bombs. So they nuke Galveston and they nuke San Diego, and then the U.S. retaliates by like nuking Shanghai or something like that. In the way that the entire novel ends, I guess I should have said spoiler alert if you're really planning on reading this rippingly good read, as Wired magazine called it. Is that India comes into play, and India threatens to attack either the United States or China, whichever one escalates tensions even higher. And so I think the real takeaway from this is not just that, it's propaganda. The real takeaway is that the elites consider the stance of India as being incredibly important in the new Cold War. And I think the reason they do that is just because they think that if a nation has a high population, then they're just destined to be this powerful economic, force in the world.
Well, you brought up there at the end talking about just high population and destined to be an economic force. And there was one thing that I wanted to ask you. We're pretty much going to take the whole rest of the segment today to let you rant about China, because I know, Patrick, it's just your favorite thing to do. And of all the minutes that you've spent on this program, I have never once asked you about China. It's amazing we haven't talked about it. So we're going to do that for the rest of the show. But I wanted to start off with this. One circle that I can't seem to square, that you hear a lot kind of just in the mainstream narrative, is China's economy is fake and it's going to collapse. And yet also, America's destined to lose a world war to them and everyone else in a matter of moments. Those two positions don't seem to jive to me. How does that make any sense?
I mean, I don't think it does really. I think the truth is kind of somewhere in the middle. I mean, if you read David Stockman, he makes all kinds of good points about how, he calls China the paper tiger, about how it's a house of cards. But in reality, I think that it's just incredibly interesting, because you see people like David Rockefeller talking about how China is like the grand experiment in some kind of technocratic, futuristic world order. And so you have a lot of Wall Street connections. And actually, there's a book written by Anthony Sutton that I think everyone should check out. It's called, it's the Wall Street Trilogy. And he talks about how the West actually funded the Bolsheviks and how there's Western funding behind China. So China has this really interesting position where the elites are saying, oh, well, look at those evil Chi-Coms. Like, they're just evil and terrible, and they're going to take over the world. But wouldn't it be nice if we could do some of those things over here to our own population? And I think that we saw that a lot during COVID. But one of the things that I've really kind of focused on in my work is talking about these two parallel narratives that have really been created by the progressives and by the paleo Republicans, kind of the populist Republican movement. And so on the one hand, you have China, or on the one hand, on the left, you have Russia being the great enemy. And in fact, Hillary Clinton and the Biden campaign really planted Putin, Trump is being Russia's puppet, Putin's puppet, in that Russia has literally attempted regime change in the United States by meddling with our elections, that they're under every rock. They're coming to eat our lunch, basically, the Russians, and that they're the greatest evil. We had Russiagate and all those different things. On the same hand, during the same time period, we have the populist right, starting with Donald Trump. And I mean, this has always kind of been a narrative that, China steals our jobs, that China's evil, what have you. But you have Trump really becoming famous, talking about how China's ripping us off. And in many ways, it's kind of the other way around. We get cheap goods and we give them IOUs that we're never going to pay for. But at the same time, you have the populist right. Now it's kind of been changed with DeSantis and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, and Josh Hawley, and some of those other figures, but talking about how China's the greatest evil and how, we should get out of the Middle East so we can focus on encircling China. And I'm saying, basically, my theory is that these are two parallel narratives that will combine at some point in time. You get half the country hating Russia, the other half of the country hates China. All it takes is, an event to kick off some kind of broader conflict with those nations. And you can see that the 2020 National Defense Strategy named China as being the #1 threat. I wrote about that in another piece called Uncle Sam's Grand Delusion, talking about the 2022 National Defense Strategy and how on the one hand they want to give billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight Russia in a 1980s Afghanistan insurgency for the next decade, but at the same time they want to do that, they think they can, put a plug in that with billions of dollars, and then at the same time encircle China and put maximum pressure on China at the same time and kind of fight that Cold War. So I don't think that people have realized that we've been fighting a Cold War now for some time, maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe longer than that. But we're in the middle of a new Cold War, and it's the most dangerous thing I think that mankind has ever faced, because I can't envision any kind of real conflict with Russia or China. I can't imagine that wouldn't go nuclear. It'd be the end of the human race. And for the stupidest, most avoidable things ever, especially the Stavridis guy, he believes in the same thing that Tim Pool does, which is Thucydides' trap, which is, I think, a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they say, well, if you look throughout history, you see that when a rising power is facing an established power, and the established power is on the decline, it always results in war. So therefore, we're on this predetermined path where there has to be a war between the United States and Russia and China. And it doesn't have to be this way, in the words of Ron Paul. It didn't have to be this way.
Well, Patrick, there's so many different things I want to ask you that are kind of in the same ballpark. I want to talk about the Uyghurs, so let's not forget that, but we'll hold on to that for just a second. But I know that you talk about in your article, whether it's talking about the West encircling Russia and China, for that matter, putting on political and economic pressure. Obviously, very ramped up in the current state of affairs with Russia and Ukraine. Despite the Soviet/communist undertones that those countries perhaps represent, both either in the past or the present, with that being one exception, Russia and China would not in any other sense appear to be natural allies culturally or historically or otherwise. And yet all of this massive propaganda machine, the entire neocon West, for lack of a better way to put it, it's pushing these two massive global nuclear powers closer together. It seems counterintuitive for our wise overlords who consider these, as you put it, the left and right narrative. If however you slice the cake, if these are the two biggest geopolitical opponents to the United States, what sense would it make to drive them to be closer?
Yeah, and it's really a predictable result, and it goes back to the stupid and evil thing. If you go back in history, Russia and China have really had a really tumultuous relationship, and you could go back to the Sino-Soviet split. There was I believe it was the Russians were attacking the Chinese embassy or something like that, but it was a really serious situation, a split that happened back then. And I believe that was in the 60s and 70s. So our policy since then really just, it makes a whole lot of sense what their reaction to our policy is, because you have the United States doing all these things like, selling arms to Taiwan, selling arms to Ukraine. In some ways, it seems like they're just mirrors of each other, the Ukrainian situation and the Taiwanese situation. Except that we don't meddle in Taiwanese leadership because they really are on our side, because they like getting all the weapons and they like getting visits from our dignitaries and the weapons manufacturers and things like that. So when you have the economic blacklisting and the populist right talking about this decoupling from China and doing things like, I mean, from both sides, you could talk about the Black Sea with Russia and our Navy's activities in the what we call now the Indo-Pacific, because we can't define the South China Sea as being, we can't define it in relation to China, because that concedes, at least rhetorically, that the South China Sea might, that the Chinese might have a better claim to the South China Sea than the United States does. So we have to call it the Indo-Pacific. But when we start doing those things and doing the economic decoupling and putting sanctions on Russia, I mean, what else are they supposed to do than really desire a multipolar world order where they can create a parallel financial system that's not controlled by the United States and Western powers either? And to them, I think that Putin and Xi have talked a lot about how it just makes sense to have a military alliance, although that's not a policy that's been declared. But there's been a lot of really, really supportive rhetoric and friendly rhetoric on that end. And since the Ukrainian situation has kind of taken off, you see a refusal of sorts of China to really condemn Putin's actions in Ukraine. And there's going to be more development on that front.
Well, it two things that kind of came to mind during that. One being from an economic standpoint, you can think back to the financial crisis in 2007, 2008, and I know a lot of our economic prognosticators would say that there's another one coming down the pipe that's going to make that look like a joke. But when these economic crashes happen, it doesn't just affect you and I here in the States. It tends to affect the whole world. I mean, so many people operate on the dollar or the petrodollar. So much international trade is involved that when there is a major economic, if Wall Street in New York City takes a hit, they feel it in China too, and to an extent vice versa as well. And so in a global economy, one again would just assume naturally that it serves everyone's best interest to get along. And then the last thing is, MAD, mutually assured destruction. It always struck me as odd that our defense contractors and military ops and everyone in between, they're running drills and writing manuals as you and I speak tonight about how they're going to go about dealing with Russia should that day come, how they're going to go about dealing with China should that day come. It's almost as if a generation or two removed, everyone's forgotten what mutually assured destruction is. When you were talking about that novel, when you were talking about what that could possibly mean for a real world worldview, it seems like people don't get that if these powers were to go to war, one side may get the better of the other, but no one's going to want to lose. And if someone thought they were going to lose and it was going to be post-World War I or II, for that matter, Germany, and they were going to be stripped of everything, they're going to let those missiles fly. I feel like that's kept the world from destruction for decades, and yet we're having this conversation. How did we reach this point?
Oh man. Well, I don't know if we have enough time to really get to the bottom of that.
I'll just give you that quick 30 seconds. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And it's not only the problem of mutually assured destruction or people intentionally using nukes. I think that one of the an equal or greater danger is some kind of an accident or misreading or false alarm where there is a retaliation. And in fact, isn't there that story about there's the Soviet officer who
Yes.
they got a false report of a missile launch from the United States, and it was his order. His orders were that he was to launch the nukes in response, but he had a feeling, he knew that it would be the end of the world, and so he had a feeling that maybe he should confirm or just wait and ignore those orders, and he didn't launch it, and he's a hero. So I'll take it in this direction. We have Adam Kinzinger, going back to that whole thing. Him hanging out in these neoconservative swamp think tanks, basically. And one of those places that he's spoken, and I mean, he's spoken all over the place, the American Enterprise Institute, Foreign Policy Initiative, and one of them is the Hudson Institute. And the Hudson Institute is famous for having a founding member. Let's see what his name is. He's a Rand nuclear war theorist, Herman Kahn, and he's notorious for his efforts to develop a winnable nuclear war. So, we have these. If I guess if your question is how did we get to this point, well, at least we have people rubbing elbows with these think tanks, and these think tanks produce these policy opinions about things like this, about winnable nuclear strategies. So we have really what accounts to nerds writing these papers that are influencing the politicians. So you have the arms manufacturers buying these nerds to write papers that justify selling more weapons, and then buying politicians also who will go out and promote these policies.
Patrick, I'm afraid as we're approaching the time here that we may not have enough time for you to fully explain the controversy of the alleged Uyghur genocide. yet again, it might take another appearance, but I will at least say this and then let you have the final word. In that, I don't want to sound like a war hawk here, but I think it's fair to say the CCP are not good people. The Chinese Communist Party are not exactly good souls that are just stupid versus evil. They're not just misguided but well-intentioned folk. With that said, I think it's fair to have an opinion that there is an entity in this world that does not represent our values that we would be disgusted by. But that also means we don't have to come up with stories, though, do we? We don't have to make up reasons why they're evil. Their evil can stand on its own. And I feel like, because I have read and seen a lot of your stuff on this topic, that I feel like other than the fact that you just don't like falsehoods, is maybe you agree with it, or maybe you don't and you'll tell me I'm an idiot, is that you don't feel that we need to be coming up with boogeymen when boogeymen exist in the world.
No, I mean, it's like in 2002 and 2003 in the lead up to the invasion of Iraq, is it really our place to be writing stories about, how evil of a dictator Saddam Hussein was? I mean, when the empire has put China in the crossroads and put Russia in the crossroads, is it really our place and time as people in the United States to be talking about when our empire, the empire that we live in, has put these nations in the crosshairs? Is it our time to be writing these puff pieces for the military-industrial complex, talking about how evil of a dictator Xi is, or how blood-soaked Putin is, or anything like that? I don't think so. Now, it doesn't mean that we endorse what they're doing or say that it's A-OK or that it has the libertarian stamp of approval or anything like that. But we just have to realize what time that we're in, the weight of history, and exactly what is our role as Americans in this whole controversy. And I think that our role should be to mind our own damn business.
I bet, Patrick, I think if we did write that, we'd probably have more viewers.
maybe.
Maybe we should write a novel about how India is going to save the world from China and America. What do you think?
I think it'll sell tons of copies.
Patrick, on that note, where can people go to support you? And I know you're going to mention the Libertarian Institute to them too.
Yeah, so I'm the Justin Raimondo Fellow at the Libertarian Institute, which is admittedly gigantic shoes to fill, but I'm doing my best here. And you can find all of our work over at the Libertarian Institute, libertarianinstitute.org. My website is libertyweekly.net, and I've been doing all my stuff kind of through Substack. So if you sign up, libertyweekly.net/Substack, you can get, as a supporting listener or reader, you can get early access to my content and some bonus episodes. But there is a free newsletter also that goes out as a part of that. So if you want to support my work, head on over there.
Patrick, we're going to get you out of here on this one. A bowl of cereal, which is a bowl with the cereal in it with milk poured in, is cereal soup?
Well, the soup have to be cold because I think that's maybe where it turns on. I'd say yes, because there is chilled soup. So yes, cereal is a type of soup.
That is correct, Patrick. You've won the bonus round. Thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, always glad to be on with you, Alan.
Guys, we're going to be back to wrap up right after this commercial break. Don't go away. If you're enjoying tonight's show, consider supporting the program by becoming a member of our Patreon. That's over at patreon.com/Alan Mosley. Like our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV. You can follow me on Twitter. Twitter.com/Alan Mosley TV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Alan Mosley TV. We're also now on Odyssey. Go support a free speech platform. Odyssey.com/It's Too Late with Alan Mosley or Alan Mosley TV. If you're more of a listener than a watcher, get us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice thanks to Anchor FM. It's anchor.fm/Alan Mosley TV. Dave, do you have a final thought?
I had a lot of fun this week. I'm enjoying the show. I think we did a good job tonight. We had a lot of fun. Great guest as usual. Good job with the interview.
Yep.
I think
we were wonderful. They had a good time.
Yeah, that's pretty much my weekly thing.
Yeah, and I'm so glad, it's a totally different energy in the room when we do the show live, because it actually is live. Adam, shut the fuck up. It actually is live. It's amazing. It's incredible. Like, do you yell at your scream at Tom Brokaw to touch his fucking nose?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. I
always like when Ryan pulls me out of the show and makes me laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right. Holy shit, what? Oh, man. I had a great time, too. And if you had a great time and you want to join us for a little bit of the after party, you're going to have to go over to Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Alan_Mosley. While you're there, you can sub. You can sub for free if you're an Amazon customer with your Twitch Prime. But meet us over there for the after party. And if you're not, we will see you next week.
I like that. He just totally blew his mind.
Oh, man. I'm so glad everybody was here tonight.
Yeah, good crowd. I love the chat.
Yeah. Well, people don't. I think some people don't understand that just because we do it live, it's not. We don't do it live because we're going to interact with chat. Although we will in the after party, because we're busy. You're over there running the show.
The show, yeah.
Yeah. Talking to guests.